inside of you. There's a wound that still reminds you of the fear, shame, and rejection. You've seen it, you've seen it. You know it's time to get up, but your heart's paralyzed, you're so stuck. You're past the point of trying again. You're defeated, you're defeated. There's something inside you can't deny. You hear the call of your creator. I made you for more and locked the door. I wanna restore your glory. So rise, breaking the dark, piercing the night. You're made to shine. An army of hope, bringing the world a radiating light. A radiant light. You were made to rise, rise. Lift your head and look around you. See the dreams and lost they have found you. And a heart that once was beating is coming back to life, coming back to life. But something inside you can't deny. You hear the call of your creator. I made you for more and locked the door. I wanna restore your glory. So rise, breaking the dark, piercing the night. You're made to shine. An army of hope, bringing the world a radiant light. A radiant light. You were made to rise, rise. Shut the door on yesterday. Leave what happened in the grave. You were made to rise. You were made to shine. Creation's longing for the day, for kings and queens to take their place. You were made to rise. You were made to shine. Rise, breaking the dark, piercing the night. Made to shine. Bring the world a radiant light. Rise, breaking the dark, piercing the night. You're made to shine. An army of hope, bringing the world a radiant light. A radiant light. You were made to rise, rise. You were made to rise, rise. You were made to.
The last few weeks, we've been trying to answer the questions, why are we here? The first question, we begin to question our existence. Why am I alive? And we found out the reason why I'm alive, the reason why you're alive, the reason why God created us is so that He might be able to love us. I don't know if you really thought about that a lot, but just to be created, to be loved. Now that is amazing. God created us so He can love us. Then last week we looked at the question of significance. Does my life really matter? Is it important? And we found out that God created us not just to love us, but He created us, it's pretty warm, He created us to last eternity. Today I want to look at the question of intention. What did God have in mind concerning my purpose? Now that's interesting. What was on His mind? Well, I want to call your attention to Psalms 89:47. And this is how it reads, and then I'm going to explain to you just exactly in Southern language what it says. David says, remember how short my time is, wherefore hast thou made all men in vain? In other words, he said this, why did you create us for nothing? Why God, why did you go out of your way to create me? Let's look. The atheist says there is no God. If there's no God, then there's no purpose of life. And if there's no purpose of life, then your life doesn't matter. And if someone wants to take it, they do. That's why the suicide rate is bothering a lot of folks in this country. Because people are not coming to grips with their purpose in life. And so they have nothing to live for. But because there is a God, how you know? I'm just dumb enough to believe Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God. Amen. Forgive me for that. Because there is a God. And God made me for a reason. He also made us for a purpose. And the only way that I'm going to know that purpose, can you follow me down here? I hope you can. Is I've got to know who He is. Now, I brought a box. You looked in that box? Yeah, I did. Very familiar with all that stuff, right? Yeah. Some of the stuff you may not be. But anyway, let me just show you some things that's created for a purpose. Now, a little show and tell. This is very simple, very simple. These are not weapons, okay? For a purpose. You understand, correct? We all understand what that right there is. Now that's very simple to figure out. And if you've done any electrical work at all, then you may have seen someone work with electricity and cutting the wiring and so forth and so on. Some of you may not understand it, but it's okay. That's created for a purpose. Now, I found this out when I began to tear apart the interior of a car. I found this tool very important. And you may have seen something like that, Alan. You know, you got these little plastic clips that hold the interior of a car in. To get to them, it's a lot easier if you use that tool and it snaps that little retainer out. It's a lot easier. And I tell you what, it took me a while to break down to buy that little cheap tool, but I wound up doing that. So anyway, then I was going through my list of stuff, and man, I pulled this out. You say, well, what is that? Well, you know that it looks like a pump, right? Yeah, it's got a gauge on it. You know it pumps up and down like this right here, like this right here. But then it's got this little connector on it. You know, that don't go to a tire. And I thought, okay, what did I use that for? You know, I was in model airplanes for 37 years. I saw all this hanging out in the shop, and I said, oh, I remember. I built airplanes that had little air tanks inside of them. You pump that air tank up, and then flip a switch, and the retractable landing gear would go up and down. It works off of air. Robart makes them. Spring air makes them. That has a specific purpose. Now, probably I could sit there and put on a different airline, a tube, and probably a different connector and blow up a basketball or whatever. But that's what that was made for. Now, let's get to this point right here, okay? Let's understand this. What is this? Ladies, what is this? Now, let's remember, this is not a screwdriver. The purpose. I've used it. You know, I needed a screwdriver. The other day at work, I show up to open up a warehouse, and one of the ladies that got there early, and she said, hey, I found this out in the parking lot. She said, you want it? I said, yeah. You've got something similar in your pocket. It's like this right here. You open it up, all of a sudden, there's some pliers. Just got a screwdriver in there of all shapes and sizes, knives, a whole bunch of stuff inside of that. But wait, what happens when something is not used for its purpose? Now, the other day I was out there and you know, I spent, well, I'll say this, I hope she's not watching on camera. Sometimes I spend too much on my car, so I'm out the other day and I'm thinking, you know what, my car is supposed to have two little seatbelt restraints right off the headrest. And I've got them right here. They come with a car. Now, the reason why they're on there is because someone had redone the seats, but they didn't put them back. I thought, I'm going to put them back. So I got ready to take the headrest off. You know how to take a headrest off a 1985 El Camino bucket seat? I don't either. I pull it up, it come up, and it stopped. You Google it, boy. That's what you do. Take that back. You Google it. That's what you do. And I said, how to remove a headrest on bucket seat 1985 El Camino. And I come to the G-body forum. We say, what's a G-body? Well, the El Camino come in 5 different G-bodies. That's a G5 out there. Started in 1959, going through 87. From 78 to 87, G5. I got a G5. I got in that forum, and it said, this is how you do it. Jim makes a special tool. I ain't buying a special tool just to take a headrest off. And lo and behold, some old Southern hick out there figured out how to do it. Here's your special tool. Now what this is, what it used to be, is a hacksaw blade off one of my hacksaws wrapped in tape. You raise the headrest up, you slide it down in between, you catch that spring, it pops right off. I doubt if I can put that back on my hacksaw. Now, this is what I'm saying. When you don't use something for its purpose, it becomes useless to you. Let's go over this one more time. When you don't use something for its purpose. Now, the reason why I brought that up, hey, if God is going to use me, I've got to figure out the purpose, correct? That makes sense. And David said, God, why did you create me? Did you just do this all in vain? Well, we know that he didn't do it in vain. Let's look at something. Here's the first point. If you know the purpose, the experience is going to be pleasant. By that I mean this. If you take something and try to use a tool that is not, in such a way that it's not intended to be used for, it's going to make the job harder. The second point is this. The only way that you're going to know the purpose of that tool you're either going to have to talk to the Creator. You're going to have to read an owner's manual. Men, we don't. I'm trying to figure this out. Replaced a bench on the front porch of our house yesterday. Get it home, put it in the box. I take it out of the box. I'm putting it together. It's a bench that has 2 seats, 2 seat for 2 seats. And they had a little coffee table with it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to put this thing together. I pulled out the instructions. Rare occasion, I pulled out the instructions and I read it. Here's what bothers me. Where I'm sitting, there's only 4 screws holding that whole place together. The coffee table's got 8 screws. Now let's do the math. Listen, coffee table is not going to take any weight. And you take 8 screws and put it together, and where I'm sitting, only 4 screws? Come on. But that's what the instruction manual says. And I done what it says. Lo and behold, it worked. What is our purpose? Now, some folks say, this is what you've got to do. You've got to look within. You hear people talk like that. You've got to look within. But I tell you what, you look in, you're not going to find nothing. That's not where you look. Some people say, well, let's look at some self-help books. You read those? All they may tell you that you're created for a purpose, but they don't tell you the purpose of being created. So let's get a better understanding of what we're going to do. In Proverbs 9, verse 10, says the knowledge of the holy is understanding. Remember I mentioned 2 words a while ago called owner's manual. The only way that I'm going to know the intention of the Creator, God, okay, you created me. I know you created me to love me. I know you created me to last forever. I understand that. But what was the purpose behind it? You had to have an intention behind it. The only way that I'm going to know that purpose is that I'm going to have to know who He is. Now listen, we come to church, we'll meet and see each other once, 2 or 3 times a week. But how many of us actually really know each other? Think about it. We may know our names. We may know where we live. We may know our phone numbers, our email addresses. We may know a lot of things about us. But when it comes to actually knowing who we are, you're going to find out we know very little. And sometimes when we have to question ourselves about how much we know about Him, sometimes we don't know very much. But in order to know my purpose, don't you think I need to get to know Him? Think about that. Don't you think I really need to get to know who God really is? And he says, the knowledge of the Holy is understanding. Jeremiah had a very difficult time of understanding God. He was sharing a message that was not being accepted. He began to question this ministry that God had him involved in. And in Jeremiah 18, verse 2 and 3, he says, this Jeremiah, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go down to the potter's house, and there I'll cause you to hear my words. So I went to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheel. In other words, he says, Jeremiah, take some time to observe. Observation is not my high point. Take some time to observe. Take some time what I'm going to show you. As I was reading different things about how to take a headrest off, before I finally got to this last one, this is what one guy said. Monte Carlo and the inside and El Camino is the same. He said, get in the back seat. Well, I can't get in the back seat, but I can picture in my mind. He said, then raise their headrest all the way up, and then wrap your arms around it. I kept thinking, what? Are we living on this thing? What are we doing with the headrest? I'm trying to remove it. Then he says, give it a big bear hug and just jerk, and it'll pop right off. And I thought, that don't even sound right. I didn't try it. I kept thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was so thankful for the guy that used the little hacksaw blade. It made perfect good sense. And you should have seen the smile on my face when I put the tape around it, and I bent it, and I raised it up, and I put it down, and I began to, and he says, you'll find when it hits that little spring, he said, push your headdress all the way down with the blade, and then pull it right back out. And I said, oh, I started shouting. I just couldn't believe it. Listen, when we find out God's purpose for us, we might be a little more excited than what we are. That's why he said, Jeremiah, you go down and look. So Jeremiah looked at that guy making a vessel out of clay. And he understood this. He walked away with this understanding that clay had no power over itself whatsoever. It sat right there on the wheel, and as the wheel spun, and then the potter's hands began to shape and mold and fashion it into a vessel that he chose for his good pleasure. Reminds me of Colossians 1:16. To find my purpose, I've got to get to know God. Think about that. To find my purpose, I got to get to know God. You're not going to tell me what the purpose is? To find my purpose, I've got to get to know God. And he says in Colossians 1:16, listen to this. For by him were all things created. And I'm included in that all things. We're included. All things are created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible. Whether they be thrones, dominions, or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. Now, you know what I like about that last part? There is a reason why I am alive today. There's a reason why we exist today. I am created by God, but I am created for him. Now, if I am created for him, then he has created me for a purpose. And He uses His creation. He uses His creation. There cannot be a greater honor bestowed upon any human being than this, to be used by God. Now this is where the confusion starts. We want to be this and we want to be this. Based upon, it's just easier to be this. Do you think it's easy to be this? It's not. And I've shared this with you before. This is not me. God wants to move you out of your comfort zone and do something through you that only He can do. Let's just think about this. Created by Him and for Him. Ephesians 1:11 says this. Now I like this part. In whom also we have obtained an inheritance. Now let's read this. And being predestined according to the purpose of Him who works all things after the counsel of His own will. Let's look at this word, predestinated. Something that has been made for a reason. When you look at the word predestinated, it reminds me of three things that's been predestinated. And those things are predestinated for my behalf. Something been predestinated is something that has been set and cannot be changed. Let's look at the three things. It's mentioned in chapter 1. I won't go through every verse. But the first thing that's mentioned is a plan. Long before God created anything, because He knew what it was going to become, He created a plan. And that plan was this, on how I needed to be saved. Long before I was even formed, shaped, or fashioned in the womb of my mother, God planned a way for me to be saved. Can't change that plan. The second thing, because He knew that was a fallen creature like Adam and had a sinful nature. God predestinated a position. When you go before God in prayer, have you ever wondered why He always asks you to pray in Jesus' name? Let me tell you why. Because God has placed you in Him, in Jesus. And the only way that you can receive access, protection, and blessing is because of what Jesus has and is and will be doing through you. Think about that. And that position has been predestinated. You can't change it. I'm in Jesus. That's a good thing. And then this third thing we just brought out here. God has predestined a person, a purpose on why I am here. Now let me disappoint you early. In this message, I'll not share with you your purpose. As a matter of fact, I cannot share with you your purpose. Now notice what I am not saying. I don't think we ought to ask God, God, what is your purpose for my life? Then all of a sudden, we got all these individual purposes go floating around. Let's just listen. Have you ever seen a cap? One size fits all. Really? Now, I have a small head. Sometimes it swells, but I have a small head. Sometimes I want to go to the youth department and pick up a little ball cap. When you begin to talk about the purpose of God, and we want God to be specific. God, name this particular purpose. What is your purpose for my life? And I'll get you started on the right track today. The word 40 is very interesting in Scripture. If you want to know God's purpose, then remember this phrase, it's going to take a while. How much time do you have? It's not something that you're going to come in and find out and walk right out. It's going to take a while. I find it interesting. Noah's life was completely transformed by 40 days of rain. Moses' life was transformed by 40 days on Mount Sinai. The spies, the 12 spies that went over, 2 of their lives were transformed as they spent 40 days over in the Promised Land. David listened to Goliath's challenge, and David's life was transformed as Goliath challenged day after day for 40 days. I find this interesting. After the resurrection of Christ, he spent 40 days with his disciples, transforming their lives. In order to find God's purpose, it's not a quick fix. It takes a little bit of time. I'll call your attention to Acts 34 and 35, and I'm going to close. Here's the apostle as he is called before a group of people, and he says this, as Simon Peter said, of a truth I perceive that God is no respecter of persons, but in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted. Now notice what it says. Is accepted not by him, but with him. This is not on the PowerPoint, but I'm reminded in Acts chapter 1, right before he ascended, he told his apostles, you know what? In a few days, and it happened to be 10, but in a few days, he said, you're going to receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. And you shall receive, and here was the word that he used. It was a 5-letter word. You shall receive power. And because that power comes upon you, you shall be witnesses. And he told them where to start. This is what's so important about things like Vacation Bible School and Park Day, is because this is where we start. And let me just challenge you. I challenge anyone. You want to go abroad and tell people about Christ? That's great. But tell someone here first. He said, you start at Jerusalem. And that's what happened. And they went abroad. But they always started here. But the key word was power. Remember? Now, I am a vessel that's been created by God for a purpose. Picture any one of those tools that I gave you. And you place that tool in someone's hand. Where's the power coming from? The tool or the person's hand in which it is in? Where's the power coming from? There's no power in any of those tools that I already showed you. They cannot do nothing by themselves in that box or hang there on a display out in the shop somewhere. You and I cannot do nothing of ourselves, but we were created for a purpose. Jeremiah, consider the potter's house. And he watched. And he watched the potter shape and fashion it into a vessel that he was pleased with. And notice, when he was finished, the potter took that vessel of clay and heated it up so it would become usable. And he put it in a furnace and brought the temperature up so that clay would hold water. So that clay would not be as fragile and soft. Sometimes we question when God tries to make us stronger. Dave, I'm reminded of the little girl that got in trouble. Mama spanked her on behind and sent her up to her room. The little girl got up there and looked in the mirror and turned around and yelled back and said, I hope you're happy, Mama, you cracked it. You see what I'm talking about? She didn't understand how she was created or the purpose. Sometimes we complain to God, don't we? We all get. And not understanding that God has a purpose. God has a purpose for that right there. Sitting there, it did nothing. Has a purpose. Sitting in that pew, it looks good, but it serves no purpose whatsoever to God sitting there. Oh, we're sitting in pews this morning, aren't we? I'm standing, but you know what I'm talking about. We're created for a purpose. And let me just tell you that purpose, part of it. You're created to be used by God. How He uses you is between you and Him. He has a say-so, but we're created to be used by Him. Okay, God, I question my existence. Why did you make me? Oh, I made you because I wanted to love you. And He just loved me. He created me so He could love me. Then I looked and see how insignificant I am and worthless. God said, no, you're significant. You're not worthless. Look on Calvary's cross. I bought you. Your life does matter. I want you to last forever. Well, I know this for a fact. Some things are not going to last forever. I'm probably going to try to put that back on that saw blade as cheap as I am. But God has created me to last forever. And then I said, okay, God, then what's my purpose? You had such good intention. What was your purpose? To be used by Him. I have. You listen to me. I have no say-so in how He chooses to use me. That's His decision. The only say-so I have is to say yes or no. Here I am, God, or no, I'm not going to do it. I can be a Paul and say, Lord, what would you have me do? I can be a Jonah and go the other way. But God's purpose in creating me was to use me. Last question before we keep on going for next Sunday morning. I'm going to close. Are you willing to be used of God, or are you just too busy? God goes to His workbench. He sees all those things that He created, and He says, I need that particular person for a particular task. And He reaches for it. But it's not available. Sometimes that's how we are. We're all guilty. My life's too busy. I've got other things I want to do. But I forget who created me and why He created me and the purpose of creating me. And I think I'd be a lot happier if I was being used by the very person that created me in the very place that He wanted me to be. James says, count it a joy when you fall into all these different types of problems. Really, God? I'm supposed to be happy when things don't go the way that I want them to? And yet it's not my will, but His will be done. Heads bowed, eyes closed.